Good morning and hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're getting ready to start our interview right now with Tesuji and Kril. Go ahead and pull them in here. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm Last.Saiyan.Prince, focus tester and partnered content creator with the Cycle Frontier. I'm excited to be here today with Michelle Nora, aka Kril, the senior combat designer, and Nathan Wood, also known as Tesuji, the senior level designer. I'll start with sharing a little bit with you guys about my own connection to the Cycle. I was an avid fan of the original Cycle, and I joined the game in Season 3 of Storm Chasers. I've been testing the Cycle Frontier from around July of last year. I was accepted as a member in the first focus test group, and I've been an active part of the Discord community. I've spent well over 1,000 hours on the test servers alone, from the time between closed alpha and CB2 before the release of Season 1. I recently started streaming as a Cycle partner weekdays at 10 a.m. Central on American time on Twitch, and I also run a YouTube channel, Midlife Crisis, where I make videos about the lore of Fortuna 3 and in-depth weapon balances. But enough about me. We're here today to talk to Tesuji and Kril. So I'm super excited to sit down with you two. Tesuji I've known for quite a while and have spent many hours talking to him and playing with him on the test servers. I'm also extremely excited to finally meet Kril for the first time myself. Can you guys please introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Yager? And start with Kril, please.
Hello. So yeah, that's me. I'm Michel, aka Kril. I'm a senior combat designer at Jaeger. I'm mostly in charge of weapon balancing, and everything related to creatures as a designer. Yeah. And Suji.
Yep. So then I'm Tesuji, senior level designer on the Cycle, obviously. I'm primarily just in charge of all things level design. How the map plays, loot placement, yeah, stuck spots. That's my fault.
Stuck spots. I see chat saying that you guys are a little bit loud and there was an echo. I turned them down and hopefully the echo's gone. Do they sound better now? Turn my mic up a little bit. Thank you, chat. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully this is better. There, everyone's saying yes, it sounds better. Sorry about the echo, guys. I apologize about that. Everyone's saying it sounds good. Tesuji, the fixer of the toe traps. Laugh out loud. Sweet. So, what we're going to start out with for question wise is Tesuji, I'm going to start with you and I'm asking you a couple questions, basically just kind of about your daily workload and things you do there. So the first question I wanted to ask you is how much has the map team grown since release, and how does this correlate to you guys pushing out maps faster for future releases?
So the maps team now is, I think, around a little over 20 people right now. When we released the game 3 months ago, I'm going to go based on CB1 days. Okay. That for some reason is mentally the day we released the game. I'd say we were close to about half that on the maps team. Yeah, and the really cool thing about having the capacity that we have now is it's like we have the ability to like take some people and go move them on to other topics or other things that like we want to develop like in the future. So like for example, we can do explorations on future maps, or we can start concepting station reworks, or all sorts of things that we want to do with the game, but we just didn't have the capacity to do it before. Because before it was like everybody's focused on like one singular thing at that moment in time, and then we move on to the next thing. So, yeah.
So, sounds like quite a big improvement there with how much you guys are able to do and how many people you have helping. The other thing I wanted to ask you, kind of a cheeky question: do you ever hide things or leave your own Easter eggs when you design the map?
Not as much as I always like to, but we do some things here and there. Some are obvious, like the horse cave, and some are much less obvious. The thing about Easter eggs is they take time. Believe it or not, they do take time, and they take planning. And when you plan practically every day of your workload, it's like, I didn't have time to actually do that. I would like to do that, but with map 3 out the door soon, maybe we'll have some capacity to add some more into the game.
I've noticed a couple little Easter eggs myself. There's one in Crescent Falls. There's like a love letter, and the first letter of every sentence spills out like graphics designer or something like that. I thought that was a pretty cool thing, and a couple little that. Um, as a map designer, what is your daily workload like, Tesuji? Like, what do you do when you come to work?
Drink a lot of coffee, sync the build, and then see how many bugs I got to fix today. No.
So a lot of bug fixing.
Well, so it really does depend on what phase of the map development we're in on, right? Because if you had asked me what I was doing on a daily workload 5 months ago, 6 months ago, right, with map 3, I would be completely different than what it is today. Today, it's very much hardening the build, getting it ready for season 2. But like months and months ago, it was, oh, I'm doing new layouts, I'm doing new sketches for different parts of this map. So it really it depends. I think for a level designer, a lot of what we do is very front loaded in a map, right? We do a lot of work very quickly, and then over time, it's modifying it, working with the artists, getting things into shape, play testing it, seeing how things work, and you're like, oh well, this hallway doesn't really work. Let's add some cover at the end of it, and then make another connection from this hallway to the next hallway. That kind of stuff. But the big broad strokes, that's all front loaded.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then my last work related question for you is how long have you been working on map 3 Tharis Island?
The genesis of map 3 started almost a year ago. And the prototype for the level was very different than what we have now, but there are a lot of elements that made it over. But that prototype was more of like a gameplay exploration, like to say, hey, can we actually work with darkness in our game? Is it fun? Are like the treacherous like goat paths, are they fun to work with, right? That kind of stuff. And then those eventually made it over. We started production on map 3, I'd say around January this year.
Okay, so you've been working on it for quite a while.
Yeah.
Did you have like the idea of the map floating in your head before then, or?
Not exactly. I've been working in level design for about 15 years now, and I have never had a map that comes to completion based on the idea that I had originally. And that's largely because you're working in a team, right? And then it's like you have your ideas, you want to work on something, and then let's say, for example, the art goes, "Hey, wouldn't it be better if we did it this way?" Or somebody in the technical art team says, "Hey, you have a technical reason why we can't do this, so we got to rework and come up with a different idea." And then over time, you find out, okay, maybe this layout didn't work, and then you rework things here and there. So yeah.
Sweet, sweet. All right, Kril, I got a couple for you now. What's your typical day at work like? Kril, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis there?
Yeah, as this usually said, like currently it's mostly bug fixing and ironing out the season 2, just making sure everything is right, testing a lot, and playing the build basically, making sure that everything is ready for the release that comes soon. But overall, it's mostly a lot of talking with people and figuring out some ideas and documentations and implementation afterwards. So yeah, it depends on the period, let's say. So a few months ago, so actually currently we're also working on season 3 potentially, so I can't say much about it, but there's also a lot of brainstorming involved. So basically trying to figure out what we want to do. We have a good idea already, but it's just sticking with a plan and trying to move forward with it, and scoping out basically what scale do we want for season 3 content, for example, stuff. So it's a mix of a lot of things, mostly like the near future, which is season 2, and also what will come later on, preparing that and making sure that once people start working on it, they already have all the information required to be able to schedule their work and sync with designers and everybody for these basically.
Sweet. So you guys are already got your minds into season 3 and season 4, perhaps then, huh? Sounds like.
Some of us do, yeah.
Sweet, sweet. Another thing I wanted to ask you is there any particular mob or gun that gave you a hard time with here from season 1 or before?
Yeah, guess there'll always be these. I think it's not. I mean, obviously balancing is an iterative process, and these things take time. I don't think it's ever done at any point. So I don't want to talk about past tense about these guns or creatures. But yeah, definitely regarding guns, I think the main two guns that are kind of very hard to figure out are, I guess, the Bulldog and the Gorgon.
Okay.
From a tuning perspective, I know they're not necessarily the most talked about guns right now, but from a design perspective, there are guns with very little parameters to work with. So, for example, Bulldog's just 2 shots and that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of damage shotgun. So it's basically from my perspective, like, or either it's too powerful or it's bad, and there's no in between. So trying to find the good balance for that type of gun is very, very hard because you have very little parameters to play with. So the spread and all that stuff, yeah, definitely works, but at one point, maybe the gun just doesn't feel good even if it's balanced. So you just have to find the right tuning for that. And the Gorgon for the same reason, because it's like you shot one shots like 15 11 shots, I think, 12, I think we reduced it actually. So it's like, yeah, either very powerful because you learn all of them, or it's not, and where do you find the middle ground? So
Sure.
so yeah, these are the main problematic guns because of the lack of granularity, I suppose. Yeah, we can play with, but I mean, we find solution over time to make up for it.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different minor iterations of the Gorgon over the days. So I definitely understand how that's a interesting one. And then final question for work here, and this is for both of you guys. We'll stick with Krill first because he was talking last. How did you come to start working at Yager? Like, how did your career lend you in the Cycle Frontier?
So how did I come here? So what led me to Jaeger, I suppose, is kind of a will to work on a shooter and on Unreal, because I haven't worked on Unreal before. So just learning experience mostly, I suppose. Obviously, I had like 9 years of experience before as a designer, but it was on different type of games, and I felt like I played the old cycle, didn't like it. So I was a bit worried when I joined. When not when I joined, but yeah, when I learned about the opportunity and tried the game, and I was like, oh shit, I don't like it much. So yeah, during the interviews, I was reassured and just told me, yeah, we're doing a full pivot and want someone to work mostly on AIs at first. And yeah, what was very interesting from my point of view, because that's not the type of AIs I used to work with. They are on the cycle. There's not a lot of them. They are rather polished compared to, for example, hack and slash game that I worked on before, where AIs are mostly, things that cannon fodder, the things you go through and you don't pay too much mind to it. There it's more the out of combat behavior so has an importance. Like, it's not only something you have to fight and kill, it's also something you have to take into account when you traverse the world or things like that. So it was a very interesting challenge to kind of make these AI live and feel alive in the world, and at the same time be dangerous for the players, because that's also when we want AIs to be. It's like propose a threat, but not a frustrating one where you basically risk to die without knowing what happens. So things that are learnable and at the same time can be anticipated by players if they know enough about them. So that's why I joined, basically, because the challenge was interesting to me, and working on a shooter was actually a new experience that uh, was looking forward to.
Sweet. And Tesuji.
So ultimately, the story that I have is rather mundane. I sent an application and they let me work there.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of carved out a niche for myself doing a lot of open world multiplayer shooters. I mean, I got my start map making for the Tribe series, and then I worked
Oh,
at
okay.
another game studio doing more open world multiplayer shooting. I did that for like a number of years. Got laid off from that job, and then I just applied to Yager. And I was like, "Hey, would you like to come work on an open world multiplayer a spaceship shooting game?" And that was Dreadnought. And then I got pivoted over to Cycle, which is another open world multiplayer shooter game. So,
Sweet. So you said you used to level design for Tribes, huh?
yes,
Like
way back in the day.
like Tribes Aerial Assault back that far back, or
We don't talk about that game.
I love those games as a younger gamer, man. Those were some of
Uh,
the first coolest first person
uh,
shooters I played.
I don't know any. If you said that on T-Dub, I think people would get pretty salty.
All right, sweet. So the next section of questions I have are basically about the past, things in the past. So we'll start out with Krill here. Krill, in the closed beta, we had an extra stat screen that had bars for things like accuracy, DPS, rate of fire, and things like that. They weren't working correctly in the beta, obviously, but they were there. I'm wondering, will we ever see a system back in the game that gives us more in-depth stats for the guns and weapons, and will those bars move up and down with attachments at some point in time?
Definitely, if we implement a system like that, would be affected by mods. That's main purpose for that kind of system is also to show the effectiveness and what actual mod changed to your guns. We are thinking and discussing this. I wouldn't say it will happen anytime soon, but yeah, definitely we're looking for actually giving more information to players about what are the stats of their not only weapons but gear in general. So yeah, for example, the stamina gear, you don't know how much stamina it gives you,
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
exactly.
So these are the stuff we're working on to give more information about guns, DPS, but also mods in general, and every type of gear we implement in the future.
Sweet, but no solid timeline on that, just work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, some might come earlier than others. Some details. Let's say that stats for guns, for example, are much harder to pull off, and we're also discussing if we really want to have it in the game in the future. So it's definitely not 100% sure, but
Okay.
at one point we'll give more information. But yeah, for gear, for example, it might come sooner than the rest.
Awesome. And then kind of a silly question here, but was there any internal nicknames for any of the creatures or guns? Like we called Jeff in the community the Marauder. Did you guys have any internal nicknames for any of the creatures or weapons?
Um, For the weapons, I don't know. I wasn't there when most of them were designed. But I know that but I don't think so. No. So, but yeah, for the creatures, I know that some of our artists called the Crusher Berta. It's a fun
Bertha?
name. So it's officially, at least internally, a female, the Crusher, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have a production name for the Marauder, which is the wormhole. Internally
Weremole?
it was the wormhole for a long time. Uh, but I mean it was changed obviously afterwards, and everybody agrees that the Marauder is more fitting anyway. And Jeff definitely
Jeff, of course,
is how
Jeff.
we call it now.
Yeah, yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, I see some people in chat. Yeah, he said Bertha. Yep, Bertha.
Yeah,
Um,
Bertha.
and then speaking of creatures, we're wondering, will we ever see passive creatures? Perhaps even some of the creatures from the old game, like the blue runners, or they had the giant tree eaters that were in the background. But will we ever see atmospheric passive creatures in the future? Do you think?
I hope so. At least the team definitely wants more of them. But yeah, it's they don't offer as much as the like more combat heavy creatures for the world and for the player in terms of gameplay. So it's hard to prioritize them. But we want to have more of them for sure. Might happen because they're also like less animation heavy in some ways, so they are easier to produce. So might find the time to add some of these in the future to add more life to the world without necessarily adding things you can kill. Let's say, but yeah, it's right now there's also a lack of variety in our combat for PvE, and players also ask for more creatures you can actually fight. So we're prioritizing that since they it adds more value for now to the game. But once we have a roster that we're happy about, at least in terms of size, then we'll talk about adding other type of creatures for sure.
I think that makes sense. Basically, priority is gameplay loop over immersion right now, pretty much.
Yep.
Sweet.
I mean, if we can have both, then
yeah, that
all
would
the
be
better.
yes, exactly. And then my last question for you out of this section, and what about like, and this goes with kind of the things from the old game question. What about consideration for like the PvE turrets or some of the gadgets or perhaps like the drones from the old cycle? Obviously, a lot of the stuff from the old game just would never fit. I mean, teleport bomb and directional warp and that kind of stuff would never fit. But what do you think about maybe some of the other things that may fit in this genre? Do we have a chance of some of that coming back, or are we only going to see new things in the future?
Definitely a chance. I mean, we don't discuss kind of future things we want to add in the game. I mean, in these terms, in the sense that it's not because it was in the old game that we will consider it. It's more like what would fit for this game that we're building, and that would make sense for our next season. And if it happens to be something that was in the old game, then cool. Because we already have the assets in some ways, so that's even better. But it will only be if kind of it fits the current game, of course. So the threat, the drones are the whatever might happen, what was existing in the old game might come back, but it will be heavily tuned and changed to fit the new gameplay for sure. I mean, we can't have, for example, the teleport bomb, that kind of stuff. It would be a bit too broken in our case, but there might be some ways to kind of implement a similar feature that will fit the new gameplay, the new game, while feeling a bit of the same as before. But yeah, it's not because it was in the old game that we want it in the new game for sure. But if it fits, then it might be added in the future. We're discussing adding new gadgets, new stuff, but it's like more long-term stuff for now.
Yeah, for sure, and that makes sense. I appreciate those insights for old game stuff and development. Tesuji, I have less questions for you in this section, but I think we have a little maybe more to talk about. What are some of the challenges that you had designing this map for this genre, Tharis Island, in terms of implementing what you want out of it?
Implementing Tharis Island itself.
Yeah, on the new map. Yep.
So, implementing a map for the cycle in general, and just about any game really, is you have to answer why you're building something, right? Like what I don't want to say what problem you're trying to solve, but we do want to create a purpose for a map to exist, right? And for players to play, and not just play once, but to play repeatedly, right? And so let me back up a bit. We wanted to define when we were developing map 3, when we were all doing our prototypes, trying to figure out what map 3 was going to be. We started off with like gameplay goals, right, and try to identify which goals do we want to accomplish, right? So we had a whole list of goals from creative direction, and like, okay, pick 2 or 3 of these, right? Tharis Island, the creative goals for that level were Alien Mystery, the tensest map yet, and Endgame Challenge, right? And so with those 3 in mind, I basically just started getting to work and sort of decided to explore some ideas for what that might be. I also kind of like wanted to push our team to explore a little bit more on what the aliens were about, at the very least, from the environment art perspective, right? Because we always had like a little bit of these like alien bits and bobs around the level, but no actual alien architecture. And I thought that like, okay, if we actually took the time to build a map that kind of achieves those goals, but at the same time also build an art set or a concept art or like this idea of what the alien architecture is all about, we'll have a set that we can reuse in the future, right? So we won't just have all the natural stuff, the human stuff, but now we have the alien stuff to work with. So future maps, when we start building that kind of stuff with whatever goals they are, we can also pull from, that Xeno stuff, right? But that's like the environment side of things, and some of the creative goals that we wanted to achieve. Another big challenge that we have to come up with, specifically, not just specifically for Tharis Island, but the Tharis Island is the reason why you're going to this map, right? So we had to come up with like a unique reason for going to the map. Of course, the maps team doesn't necessarily decide what that reason is going to be, so it's like a cross-team collaboration kind of thing, right? It's like, hey, we put our heads together, we go, okay, why are players going to go to this level, right? We came up with a pretty kick-ass idea, I think, and it's going to be up to players to discover what that is. And then the other trick is to how do we populate the map that really amplifies that thing that we built for the map. So, because if I just went in and just like populated the entire map with, human stuff, right? Corleb base and Osiris base, homes and all sorts of stuff. It's like people would go, oh, we've seen this before. This exists. It's map 2 or it's map 1, right? So that's definitely a big challenge for not just designing, Tharis Island itself, but any map really.
For sure. Well, I as a player of the old game, I was always curious about the Crescent Ring on Crescent Falls and the tower in the middle of Bright Sands and stuff. So I'm really excited that you guys decided to kind of take that point of view of let's not just build onto what we have, but let's like start the beginning of the rest of the journey, right? So that's super exciting. And kind of to go along with that question, what was difficult or challenging about converting the old map? So what was the difficulties from Bright Sands and Crescent Falls for converting them from a completely vertical, high speed, or low stakes game to the current genre, much slower and grounded is the word that's been going around lately.
Well, it all stems from our mantra, right? Tense uncertainty. So I think if you looked at the old maps and you started running around, and you were to run around with our current player speed and our current movement mechanics in the old maps, they wouldn't be very tense or uncertain. I think that phrase from a level standpoint derives from the unknown, right? And not having the freedom that you would want, because the old maps were very much like as the crow flies. You could pretty much go from any point to any point by just picking a direction and holding W, right?
Yeah.
But part of level design and in design in general is like finding the good design by taking things out, right? That's why we have a lot of like negative space around the level or areas where you're not supposed to get up on top of. But we're asking you to go around. But the idea is that like we're intentionally funneling players together, and you're like, okay, I want to do some bit of planning, and I want to go around the level. Like I'm going to go around the level this way, but that way wouldn't be risky. And so you like try to use some of the information that you can gather on the map, like. Oh, there's a meteor over there, so there might be players over there. I'm going to go around that, but I'm going to need to go around this route, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think playing with the player's ability to gather limited information builds tension, and then giving you those spaces where you can release that tension. Like let's have people funnel towards a PvP space, and they're in a PvP space, and they meet another player, and they can have a fight and release that tension, and then they can move on.
So are those funnels natural? Like, did they just come over time, or did you guys say we want fights in dig site, we want fights in the hallway between here and there, or did they just kind of come naturally over time from player progression?
Mostly they were planned, but some did come after some of the feedback that we got early on. I think probably the best example of that was the desert lowering in map 2. If anyone played CB1, you remember that the whole desert was like up on a cliff, and the thought was that we wanted to funnel players through Starport, and it was going to be like this legendary choke point, and people were always going to fight through it. And people were like, "Oh, did you remember that fight that we had at Starport?" It wound up being a piece of. It wound up being so annoying for players.
Yeah,
like really annoying. Not just like trying to fight through Starport. I'm fine with choke points being harsh and all, but it was like literally the only way, right? And plus, people were like, "Okay, I want to go to the skeleton observation, right?" And so they would go in that direction, and they'd meet a cliff wall and try to run around it for like 30 minutes, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" I mean, I remember watching Summit getting like super frustrated during CB1 because of that cliff wall, and I'm like, I'm taking this shit out.
yeah. The first iteration of the desert was definitely difficult to traverse and understand.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I think that's it for present questions. We're gonna hop into a few future questions, and these will be back and forth between Tesuji and Kril as we go. We're on Tesuji right now, so we'll keep rolling with him. Hypothetically, what type or style of maps would you like to see added in the future? And obviously, we're not looking for details, just kind of atmosphere, play style.
Oh, what style of map would I like to see? I would absolutely like to see a map that's less on the human side and more the uniqueness of Fortuna 3, right? Put on your explorer's hat and a pair of binoculars and go kind of level, right? So
perhaps maybe like more natural wildlife and less colonization.
correct.
Sweet. Kril, I got one for you here. So I think a big change a lot of people noticed right away in season 1 was the equip sound for the AR-55. We got this really cool when you equip the AR-55. I personally love the uniqueness of the guns in the cycle, and I'm wondering, are we going to get more gun-specific, unique sounds for equipping, reloading, shooting, even that further set the guns apart from each other?
Hopefully so. I don't remember if they are already kind of made for season 2 or if it was postponed. But yeah, we had planned for basically more unique sound for guns, as you said. So shooting also is he worked a bit the looping sound of the shots to feel more natural as well. There's a lot of improvement on sound that are done almost every day, and guns
Sweet.
especially because it's such a huge and important thing on a shooter. Obviously, that's what makes the gun feels how it feels. Basically, if this doesn't sound good, it doesn't feel good to shoot with it. So yeah, there's a lot of emphasis made on sound. Our sound designers are obviously working hard and great to make all these gun sound as good as they do currently. But I don't remember if we had the time exactly to push everything through. So we definitely are working not necessarily on specifically equip sound, but more shots and yeah, the shots basically. I don't remember if there's anything regarding unique equip sound, but I'm pretty sure it's also on the list. Is if it was done for the AR-55, then there's a chance that we had it planned for more guns, but didn't came in time for release basically. So it also depends on the time we have to work on this, because obviously map 3, so sorry, for season 2, a lot of work regarding for sound design regarding other stuff than gun. Yeah, but there's also some animations. We work on some creatures, stuff that also requires any sound to make a pass on these, plus the new features of the map 3. So I can't remember exactly if we had time to work on this specifically, but that's definitely something we want to do, adding more unique sound to guns. Absolutely.
Sweet. So sounds like a constant improvement thing. We should see improvements as time goes. It's exciting.
Yeah.
See. So, Kril, do we have any confirmed creature variants planned for the future that we don't currently have? And if so, can you tell us about it? I know we've talked about one in the roadmap. So even just that one would be sweet to kind of let us know what you can know about that.
Which one are we talking about? I'm not sure I'm aware.
The Howler.
Oh, yeah. In that case, it's not a variant of a creature, but more like a new creature.
Yeah.
But yeah, working on this one. Can't say much about it, but
Of
we'll
course.
see. But yeah, no, for variants of creatures, if they fit for a new season, a new map, definitely. For example, we had planned having variants of creatures for season 2 on the map 3 on the caves, but didn't had the time to produce the new meshes, new behaviors, and all for it. So in the end, we don't have them. So we adapted the kind of behavior for our current creatures to better work on this cave environment. But yeah, that, for example, map 3 would have been a good opportunity to do it. Sadly, didn't pan out, and we didn't. We weren't. Yeah, we weren't able to pull it off. But if another opportunity arises, then yes, we probably would do some variants for specific environments, for example. But not. We won't do it like the last time we did it, for example, just more difficult creatures. It will most likely be slightly different behavior adapted to that environment. Yeah.
So like elite versions, but maybe map 3 versions instead of elite, more or less. Map specific versions, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Okay,
area
sweet.
specific. So they're not like just more difficult. They also have some different patterns, different behavior, different attacks, and their look will represent this kind of new behavior, properly show how they behave as well. So it's nothing planned regarding that, just to be sure that everybody's aware of it.
Of course, of course.
We're not planning to do any new variants of creatures at the moment, but yeah, if the opportunity arises, definitely we think about it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're definitely excited to see the Howler in season 3 or 4 whenever that comes, and hopefully some more variation on what mobs we do see. And then Tesuji, into the real juice, what most people are here for today. From your point of view, Tesuji, can you tell us the atmosphere of Tharis Island? Kind of what feeling invokes being there, and again, we're not looking to give details out against NDA, but just kind of feeling and atmosphere.
Tense and uncertain. No, really, it's moody.
Moody.
It's very moody, very spooky. I don't want to go into too much detail. I really don't want to go into much. But let me just say this: like tense and uncertainty. It's like I said, one of the creative goals for the level was to make the tensest map yet. So I hope I reached it.
Yeah, for sure. And we're just 7 days away here from getting a peek ourselves. So for sure, we don't want you to ruin any of the surprises for us. What skill sets do you think will help a prospector be good in the new map?
Sure footing.
Like a sure footing.
Which is, I think this is now a good time as any to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it is. No, I think this is the time. Let's hear it.
All right, so this is news, big news about Map 3.
Big news.
So write this one down. Map 3 has a unique feature in it called the Void. What it is there are a series of bottomless pits in Map 3, and if you fall, you die. It's not like, oh, you die from fall damage. Like the Void kills you, right? The thing about it is that we realized very early that it could be abused by people who wanted to get their gear back through insurance. It's like, oh, I'm losing a fight, so let me just jump into the Void, right?
Yeah.
The Void voids your insurance.
Okay.
So you're not going to be exploiting that to get your gear back.
So you really don't want to fall into the Void.
Correct.
Sweet. And that goes right back to your mindset of slow, tense, and sure footing. You don't want to be running blindly from combat and end up in there. So
that's correct.
I'm sure many people will hate that feature.
Especially when you have to
hate in a good way, of course, but
especially when you have to deal with it in the darkness.
Yeah, very dark, right? Yeah, exactly. Yep. That goes back to the atmosphere of the island, dark and tense, and taking your time and not rushing.
Question from chat: it voids all insurance. It's all gone.
Yep.
I guess another thing about Map 3 is that some of the choke points are kind of brutal. So we're gonna be keeping an eye on it to see how people react. So don't go in and thinking it's like, oh, this is complete bullshit in PvP. It's like we're keeping an eye on it. Don't worry. Like you'll find like a lot of entryways are just like tight enough for only one person to walk through. So like squads on notice. So
yeah. Sure. Would you consider it a PvP focused map?
Yes.
Or PvP focused?
Yes, I would say so. Yes. It's not. That's the other thing we're going to look at is a player count. The current player count is 14, but it's a smaller map. It's about the third the size of map 3 or map 1. Sorry, Price Hands. That's another thing that we're gonna keep an eye on. I don't want you running into players every second of your time on the map, because I think that wouldn't be uncertain. That would be tense and certain. That's not what I want. There's got to be some ebb and flow. But if it's too much, we'll tune it down. But if you're not really encountering players enough, we'll bump up the player count. So, yeah.
Okay.
Because we do want like tense PvP fights in this map.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of tension. Yeah, yep. And I know seemed like you were joking and satire, but seriously tense and uncertain is really, you guys nailed it there. And I've had some time myself to play on Tharis Island in the focus test groups, and you guys definitely nailed that atmosphere. So I'm super excited for the to be able to see that. Kril, we're gonna hop over to you, and this should be the juice from you here. And again, if you're not able to share too many details, we understand. What we're looking for is kind of just direction and mindset, not stats or specifics. So, my question for you is, what kind of armor and weapon scale rebalance can we expect for season 2? And how do you feel about the current state of the balance? So this is the juice from your side.
So what we can expect from season 2 is not too much, to be honest. It's like we won't change the whole formula for damage or whatever the armor rescale. I think the main change will be that we are adding legendary armor that you can
Legendary armor.
get on doing stuff. Don't want to spoil that, how to get them exactly. So that adds a new layer of armor beyond, above exotic, which will have 33 armor. So
Okay.
that means that you be able to get more armor potentially. And there will also be ways to get even more than that. I don't want to spoil as well. I don't want to spoil too much. So there will be new, not exactly a rescaling of what we have, except the exotic armor that will have 1 point more, but that shouldn't change much, to be honest, the grand scheme of things. Just a new tier basically, because before, for example, the helmet, legendary helmet had 29 armor, which is the same as the exotic. So we changed the exotic to 30, and the legendary, which is also the rarity of the night vision helmet, is now at 33. So should give you more reduction than the current maximum value, let's say. So we increased the maximum gap for armor, basically.
So it doesn't sound like we're getting a complete meta shift, more so just little ups and downs inside of the current meta. We're not gonna like have new gun rarities or anything crazy like that for season 2.
No, it's only on armor that it changes as well. It's like no new tier for guns. We rebalanced the guns a bit, the exotic and legendary, to have 1 more penetration value to fit the armor as well. So it's the same scale. But in terms of basically the power operation will probably stay around the same values. Basically what we the state of the current weapon balance felt like we didn't want to make too much change because of these new additions. Also, the map 3 is a new environment, a new map with a different kind of setup. So the context is very different. The type of weapons that will be interesting on map 3 are powerful on map 3 will probably be different than on map 1 and 2 as well, because it's so different. So we also want to see how our weapon will behave in this new environment. For example, we have a lot of, SMGs are mostly are the less used weapon on map 1 and 2, and the less powerful. But on map 3, they might gain more traction due to more close quarter fight, for example. So we can't really anticipate that yet. We still made some changes to specific weapons, so some SMGs will be better, more powerful, and the other way around. But no change to the general formula around the power progression, because as we looked at the data, basically the feedback, so it's like it felt like it's in a rather okay state. And when we look at the basically the chance to win with a purple gear or exotic gear against uncommon and common gear, it was around what we expect. So around 20%, up to 20% chance to win with a basic gear against an exotic gear and epic gear, which is what we kind of want for the game. At the same time, the blue gear gives you significantly more chance, but not too much, like around 30% chance to win in that case. So we're as the season goes, we see more people going on the planet with purple and exotic gear, which is also what we kind of want to expect, for that gear to be rather rare at the beginning of the season and being more common in the end. also to be much more powerful in PvE, which will be important for also map 3. So yeah, in the end, it kind of fits our expectation as to the power progression, but same as for season 1, we'll obviously look at the feedback and the data that we gather from the first weeks and adjust if needs be.
Sweet. So I got one more question for you here, Krill. And again, the goal is for mindset and atmosphere, not exactly stats and details. In the publicly released roadmap for season 2, one of the things were in-game gear modding system and perks. Is there anything that you can tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. So the I guess it's already in game in some form because we already have some gear, for example, tactical gear and the other restoration gear, which has perks already. So the idea is mostly to be able to have more of these. So you'll be able to find gear that will give you perks that are useful for other things than fighting, but also that could give you an edge when fighting. So yeah, the idea is to extend the concept we already have in place with the gear that gives you stamina or the gear that gives you health regen to other type of perks. Basically, I don't know if I don't want to spoil exactly what these
Yeah,
perks
for
will
sure.
be, but there's a bunch
Sure.
of them that you'll be able to discover on the release.
So that's incredibly exciting. It sounds like we'll be able to start meta building, right? We'll be able to start having dynamic builds that perhaps not just necessarily having purple armor is what you need, but perhaps having a purple armor with this perk or that perk may make quite a bit of difference in what you decide to take in
Yeah,
or die with.
yeah, definitely. So that's, I guess, the second step, we could say, towards that direction. And we want to bring more of these in the future. So for now, it's like they are like limited amount of perks you can get. But as we go more in the future, we'll add more and more of these. So each player can find perks that fit better their play style and can we can support this different type of playing the game through item and gear and perks. So the idea is not to give like one gear that will be better than everything. That's the top gear that everybody wants. We want to provide for each and every type of players that we have in our game some gear that will fit their playstyle, and each and every player to be able to kind of find ways to enhance how they play and create their own character, their own specialized character in some ways. So that's the long-term plan. Obviously, we'll not be there for season 2 yet, but we're starting to build the foundation for this, basically.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Um, just exciting to be able to because me personally I love stats and things like that, so it's exciting to be able to have a wider amount of things to consider when building our loadout. So that's super exciting. Thank you for updating us on that. And then I have just one more question for you in this section, Krill. So in update 1.35 it was mentioned that the Marauder would have a new attack, and for whatever reason we never saw that new attack. So I'm wondering is any other creatures going to change attacks or movements, or can you tell us anything about the difference in Jeff?
Yeah, I can tell you. So it was
Sweet.
an error at the time. We didn't
Okay.
ever plan to release the Marauder new attack 1.35.
Oops.
So it slipped into our changelog, and it shouldn't have, and it was removed rather quickly, but still not quickly enough for you to not catch it, I suppose. So yeah, that was something that was planned for season 2, and that we worked on at the time of 1.35, but didn't release it on that patch specifically. So yeah, the idea is basically, as I said, we kind of want to adapt the creature's behavior to the new map as well, to map 3. So that goes through a better kind of pattern behavior for the Marauder. And that's what we did. So there's a new, actually we added a new melee attack that doesn't expose the weak spot, and we retuned the Marauder to basically be to take more damage in its weak spot because it's exposed less often. So there's still some tuning to iron at exactly the HP and damage received on the weak spot, but you can expect almost all creatures to have most of their animation being reworked. In some ways, you might not notice it, but for the Marauder, it will definitely be noticeable. We changed basically all the attacks animations. So the melee attack that the Marauder used before, the claw left and right, so as a new animation that should be more readable and should give more time also to hit the weak spot, which wasn't the case before. I mean, it was plenty enough, but not for some players, I suppose. And a new melee attack in the pattern behavior, in the melee behavior, and a new and the wrench attack, the puddle attack where it spawns the puddle, also has a new animation which gives more time to players to interrupt it by hitting the weak spot. So there's a bunch of changes on the Marauder. As I said, like we got some feedback from the focus test group this weekend, people testing. So we'll adjust based on the feedback there regarding the new tuning, to make sure that it doesn't feel much more frustrating to fight the Marauder than before. But hopefully it should be it should lead to interesting situations, especially on map 3.
Yeah, so prospectors, keep your mind open next time you see Jeff. So that's all I have for the future stuff, and I appreciate those. And then we're gonna hop over to Tesuji, and I know this is kind of a big one. I'm gonna start off with the easy one. And do you have any particular points of interest that is your favorite in Bright Sands or Crescent Falls, Tesuji?
I would have to say Green's Prospect is probably my favorite in map 2, or Crescent Falls. That wound up turning out to be one of the most fun PvP spots in the game. I think people really like that kind of circuitous nature of it. You get this big ring, and people fight around that one. Bright Sands is probably Waterfall Lab.
Nice.
That one's a nice one.
So we noticed quite a few changes on map 1 and 2. So you guys haven't only been working on Tharis Island, you've also been doing some work in map 1 and map 2. Is there anything you would like to share with us on changes for map 1 and map 2 going into the new season?
So we haven't really done much for map 1. Map 1 Bright Sands is mostly unchanged. Merely bug fixing here and there for Bright Sands. We think that map's in a pretty good spot right now. Crescent Falls, we are, in addition to doing some improvements to general navigation to make things smoother, we're also changing up the spawns and the loot, particularly focused around the northwest of the map. A lot of people have been complaining about like spawning in pumpkin fields.
Of course.
You're right next to another player. So we've nuked quite a number of spawns up in the northwest of the level.
Okay.
The Neutron Warehouse in the northwest is now tier 5. All the nearby homes are now tier 4. And there's a new keycard room inside Neutron Warehouse that's particularly juicy.
Oh, it's particularly juicy.
We've also nuked a number of spawns in the desert, the lower desert, by skeleton observation. Those are all gone.
Okay.
Yeah, except for one nearby.
All right.
So yeah.
So
you're traveling to Pinnacle is going to be a little bit longer to get up there.
All right. So perhaps no more doing a laser drill right next to your evac and skeletal.
Yes, that's the other thing. Starport admin. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll see how the feedback goes. Starport admin evac is gone, and Green's Prospect evac is gone.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The goal is we wanted to have less pathing of players generally go all the way up to Pinnacle Labs. We wanted to get more branching and like people doing this and then people doing this and then meeting somewhere and then having a fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the next set of questions are a combination of my questions and community questions. So these ones we're fine with yes, no's, or pretty short answers on. I'll start with the first few ones that'll give us just a little bit of stuff to talk about. And I'll start with Krill here. Krill, what's your opinion on the current power to cost ratio of the Kinetic Arbiter? Some of the top players in the community have 20 30 million K marks, and they have 30 to 40 KAs in their inventory. Me personally, I'll start off by my own opinion. I think the Kinetic Arbiter is an incredible gun. I think it's amazing. The sound, the animation, the visuals of it. Me personally, I hope the gun never gets nerfed. I love how strong and powerful it is. In my opinion, I think it's a little too easy for prospectors to have. I think it's the majority of the community is frustrated in the last few weeks of wipe because you have every team running KA. What's your opinion, Krill, on the ease of acquirement versus power on the Kinetic Arbiter?
I mean, it depends on the season, how long has it been running, I suppose. That's basically, I feel like it's a weapon that comes later on the season, and I think that's very good. Until players actually have some good ways to make reliable K mark, doesn't they can't actually buy it every time they lose it, for example. So could definitely look at it and make sure that it's not too easy in the end to get a lot of kinetic arbiters, but I feel like it's mostly at the end of the season that it might become an issue for players that played for the whole season. So in the end, it's like more of a reward for these players. I feel that they might access this weapon. Also, you have to get one of the very high in the factions to get it, so it comes very late. And the feedback we got from like almost mid season already was that it was too hard to get, too hard to buy, too expensive, and not good enough. So it clearly depends on where you are, where you're in the game, what position you're at. But we also, of course, want to make sure that at any point you kind of feel that tense uncertainty, right? When you don't want to lose your shit. So it has to have value, and it has value until a certain point. But I guess it's kind of the case for everything in the game, where inflation goes and you get like a shit ton of money at one point, and you don't you're not afraid of losing your gear anymore. So it's more around that. Maybe we need to work on maybe end of season better, more late game content that makes you risk your stuff, or more expensive stuff that makes you want to get it. And risk it on the planet while potentially losing it, which will address the potential issue with our players not having anything to lose in the end, because they have accumulated so much wealth that they don't care anymore. So yeah, it's more about having more things in the end that people can throw their money towards, so that they can use them.
Yeah, I think in the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, if you're gaming and you get killed by a KA, you're like, holy crap, that guy, what was that? And it's like this feeling of awe and inspiration almost to like, what do I need to do to be that guy? And then I feel like we get to the end of the season and the only feeling we get out of it is again, and of course that's an incredibly difficult thing because you got to make it fit on both sides of the thing. I think a good money sync would help a lot for the in-game players to have something like Chap bought 25 KAs on stream more than one time this season, and it's of course it's an extreme. Shout out to Chap being an amazing player, PvP player. That's not everyone's experience, but it is there. It's still happening.
Yeah,
So.
I mean,
I got a few more.
we
Go ahead.
we're
Finish
kind
up.
of aware of the situation. I think it was expected as well from our side. Like we ran out of late game content in terms of what you can accumulate, but it's also first season, right? The game just released, so it's something we'll build upon, and we take to heart to basically improve on is making sure that over the whole duration of the season, the balancing of the content we have is good. And for that, we need to have that content, which we don't have yet, but it's also a question of time. We'll add more. We add more for season 2. We'll add more for season 3. And every time we'll add more of these kind of late game items that are useful once you kind of reach the end of the season.
Of course. And I see everybody is pinging me saying this, and it's something that I have towards the end. It goes right along with the same one, so I'm just going to hit you, Krill, while we're here. What do you think about locking sniper rifles to 6 times or more? So the C32 and the KA being glint sniper rifles and not able to put 2 times on them as a form.
Definitely something we might explore at one point, because we do the things the other way around by looking the six times on 8 on snipers only. So could be something, but I wouldn't say we want to commit for it because we also want to give players freedom to kind of mod their weapon the way they want, and even play snipers short range if they want. That's also something that is kind of keen to us. So we see if we end up doing it or not in the future. For season 2, it won't be the case, but we'll rediscuss it maybe mid-season or season 3 if it's worth doing.
Sweet. Tesuji, here's an easy one, so you don't fall asleep over there. Will the comms tower uplink or any of the other uplinks that were taken out after CB2 ever make a return? I personally love the comm towers uplink myself.
That's an interesting question. My answer is actually more broader than just the comms tower
By all
uplink.
means.
I do want to bring it back, but I do want to bring it back with a caveat. One of the things that I really want to start pushing more into the game is the idea of context for things, right? To give you an example, I think that the uplinks should exist where you have those unique buildings, right? The ones that can be like a circle with the slanted roof and everything. Like you see it at the north uplink, and you have it at the south. Whatever, I can't remember. The idea being is like I want players to be able to walk into, like, let's say for example we were to hypothetically build maps procedurally. I want to create a set of rules for things so that if you were to walk into a new map and you could see a whole bunch of these contexts and go, oh, over there I'm going to find X, over there I'm going to find Y, right? Without us having to give you a map or anything like that. Basically just make it more immersive. I've already started doing some of this with writing down some of these contextual rules. For example, Titan ore can only be found in caves, right? So we have these kind of things. So when it comes to uplink, will the comms tower uplink come back? It's only going to come back if I can get that building in there somehow. So they put that. So does that answer your question?
I mean it is an answer for sure. I think that comms tower is the communication place, so it makes sense to have a data drive there. I think is what you're saying pretty much. Like you want to make sure that those things fall in line. And
yeah. So like when you're looking at the building, it's like, oh, hey, it's that building. There's going to be an uplink over there. So
yeah. And I think there was even one in Green's Prospect before that really didn't make any sense. That now it's gone, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. It's not there anymore. Whereas the comm towers one is kind of like, oh, well, that one didn't make sense. So it's good to hear that you're considering that in terms of not just comm links or data uplinks, but the whole shebang, the whole thing. Yep. And then what lessons did you learn, Tesuji, from the first dungeon that you plan on taking into future dungeons? So is there any big mess ups or big wins that we got from the first dungeon that you're going to take into consideration for perhaps future dungeons? And a short answer for this one's fine if need.
I do like the way the dungeon that we built. I think it's a nice experience. I think it's cool. When it works. It's had bugs over the days, obviously, exploits, etc. Theoretically, I like the way it works. I think if I were to do, I don't think I would do it again, to be honest. I think if we were going to push for a new kind of dungeon, it would be more on the exploration side. Let me put it this way: we built a Doom level. We should be building a World of Warcraft dungeon.
Yeah. Okay.
So
not so much an arena, but more so a mission, an exploration, like you said.
We effectively built a combat puzzle, and I think we should have been building more like this exploration thing with maybe stronger enemies and better loot around the areas. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Let's see. What do we got for time here? Looks like we got about 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. So, I'm down to my last few questions here. Kril, will we ever find rusty weapons beyond Kotek? And if so, do we ever plan on making them repairable at the print station inside of the player quarters?
No, that's not planned. Currently,
Okay.
we have some ideas and design for having not necessarily rusty, but broken weapons or weapons with durability some ways. But nothing that we want necessarily to do in the near future or will ever do in the future if we feel like we don't want to. But yeah, it came to our mind. We had some ideas around it, but might never come to be implemented in yet.
Sweet. Tesuji, there are still plenty of references to the subway system that used to connect Crescent Falls and Bright Sands. Do you think we will ever see inter-map travel? Like, I go to Bright Sands, I go to, per se, some area in Bright Sands, and I go through a door, and on the other side of the door is Crescent Falls.
It's been talked about, but not at a serious level yet. I think this is, I mean, Tarkov has streets coming out.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There's something to look at. Then we can take a look at that, and if we think it's like something that fits our game as well, we can obviously take a look at it. But I mean, we have had talks about, hey, what if you could, because we have this persistent match structure, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's like it could suit our game quite well, right? Because you're not just like going from map 1 to map 2 to map 3 and then got to do the whole matchmaking thing and drop in with people, right? It's you just go to the map whenever you damn well please, right? But it's an engineering challenge, and right now we have our priorities, and so my short answer is never say never.
Cool. I see in chat this question's been asked a lot, and we actually discussed this question before we started streaming. Someone wants to know, Tesuji, what is your opinion on the bannable jump spots? Since you're the map designer, it'd be awesome to hear your opinion on it. First of all, we're going to pretense this with Tesuji doesn't ban anyone. Tesuji doesn't make the rules on who gets banned for what. That's between the community managers and other people. So we're gonna I'm gonna read your question out loud, but we're also gonna say that's not a question for Tesuji. Kril, will the Phasic Lancer see any changes for season 2? So on day 1 of release, I made a video of all the gun balances, and I pointed out how incredibly overpowered the Phasic Lancer is for the tier level that it sits in. Do we think we're going to see any minor balances specifically on the Phasic Lancer to bring it back down to rare tier in performance?
Yeah, I've reduced the projectile speed a bit because it was the highest one from all the
highest headshot multiplier too, right?
The headshot multiplier is high, but it's kind of particularity of the gun that we want to keep its identity. So I mean, burst weapon is a bit tricky because we don't have the proper system to support some of the balancing we would like to make. For example, the recoil is the same between all shots. We would like to have shots, for example, the initial recoil higher than the one of the following burst shots, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we reduce the refire rate, so between burst and projectile speed. and we'll monitor this eventually. If there's need to be more, to have more tuning changes in the future, then we'll do it. But yeah, so for season 2, the launch of season 2, at least that's all the changes we plan to do.
Sweet. So it sounds like the DPS has been dropped down from second best in the entire game to something a little more reasonable.
Yeah, let's say that. I'm not sure it was second best, but it was close to that, I suppose, if you can't headshot.
It was pretty close to that. Tesuji, will thorns and barbed wire ever cause damage to deter from climbing?
I think that's the dream, right? To make it so that, like, instead of like it's just a collision box and it's just set to unclimbable, it's more immersive. Like, you can actually kind of, your body falls into it, you take a little damage, and you go, ow, I can't grab onto that, and you fall down. I think that's a dream. It's just we haven't had the capacity to do something like that yet, because that's something like that also probably requires animation support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Krill, I have crafting or buying green and blue attachments, and will we see more attachment slots and perhaps legendary attachments in the future? And again, we're just quick answering here, so.
Yeah, definitely in the future, maybe if we come around to actually do it. But the crafting of blue and green, well, that's what we wanted from the start, but we ended up not doing it because the UI started when we tested it. It's like there's just a huge list of attachments in your crafting UI, and it's not really manageable, let's say. So in the end, we decided to just give in on loot. But in the future, we might rethink that. And basically, what we want to do potentially is having only the last tier rarity on loot, and the in between are all craftable.
Okay.
Which will get sort of, yeah, when you loot an exotic or legendary mod, it's something worth noting. It's like an event in itself, because that's the only way to find them. While right now it's the other way around. But that will come with UI improvements that will allow all these items to be craftable in a more less frustrating and easy to access way.
What about firing mode attachment? So like, say the old game used to have burst fire PDW and burst fire advocate, or any considerations for ammo attachments that change how the weapons function versus just improvements on the current stats?
Yeah, definitely. It's something we want to do, and we'll probably come to do it at one point. But it's also requires a lot of work from sound, VFX, and animation, because our weapons are right now, they only have one behavior, and so we tailor the animation and the sound to that behavior. If we multiply them, then it's a lot of work on everybody that is involved in the development of a weapon, and sometimes it's just maybe better to, it adds more value to just create a new weapon at that point. Sure. So yeah, we'll probably do it at one point, but it's not planned in the near future.
Yeah, one of the most satisfying things from the old cycle was the advocate with piercing rounds, and getting about 10 mobs lined up and shoot one bullet and just hear the hit markers through each one of them is one of my old favorite things from the old game. Just a random thrown in there. So the final question that I have written before I spend the last 7 minutes reading a couple out of chat is the shatter gun. So I could bring up multiple different things around the shatter gun. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. So what I have written is the shatter gun with 100% run speed, the same as carrying a knife or a stem. Is that something that you think is appropriate in the game balance?
Right now, it's mostly all shotguns are like that, I suppose. But it's mostly to give more an identity, different ways of playing the shotguns. It's not something we want to change the near future again. But we might reevaluate it if we feel like the shotguns are getting too much traction or are too powerful. That might be one thing we will don't have the word in English, but we want to go back on and maybe readapt.
For sure.
It's definitely an intention from us, like having these the shotguns not having any movement speed reduction, and allowing for mobility to differentiate them from other short range weapons. Basically, it's like you play them differently. Also, it fits the way you use them, because shotguns are a lot kind of shoot and get covered and go to cover and then shoot again. So it fits the play style you want to play when you have shotgun. So that's why I wanted to do it in the first place. But again, if it's synergized too much with the playstyle, we might come back to change this in the future.
Yeah, personally, I would very much like to not to see what it would be like to have the shotguns at 90% instead of 100%. Just because I feel like running with your knife out should be the fastest form of travel. Not even so much specifically because of the shatter gun, but again, that's personal opinion. So that's all the questions that I've written down. We have 5 minutes, so I'm gonna just start scrolling up and reading some questions from chat, guys. I'm not gonna read every question because some of your guys' questions we've discussed beforehand that we didn't want to bring up, mostly because these are not the correct guys to answer. So like I'm not going to ask Tesuji questions about the anti-cheat, and I'm not going to ask Kril questions about cosmetics and things like that. So if I skip over any of your guys' questions, I apologize. And Tesuji and Kril, we're looking for short answers here to see if we can get some of these knocked out. Our weapons have some sort of material put into them to make it so you can't just buy unlimited. This might go to the arbiter. Say perhaps that you have to buy it and turned in a material so that you can't just get unlimited of them. What do you think about that, Kril?
I think we want to explore in general for our shops in the future, but don't know if we'll bring it up for weapons specifically. But yeah, we want to add some sort of scarcity towards what you can obtain in the shop. So either you have to bring in materials to get things in there, or just limited amount of things you can actually buy, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely not something that we have that's not something we want to do like right now, and it might be something that might be scrapped, an idea that may be scrapped in the future. But that's definitely something we want to explore at one point, at least internally, to see if it feels better or not, just to have that limited amount, or at least requiring to play on the map for a specific amount of time in order to be able to afford some stuff on the on the shops. Not sure it would be applied to weapons though, as we also want weapons to be fairly accessible. But might be interesting to at least explore this for high tier weapons, definitely.
Sweet. Tsuji, what do you think about some changes to the mobility inside of base camps, specifically the luggage room, perhaps having a third entrance in and out of there?
When you say the luggage room, you don't mean the keycard room, because it's a keycard. You can't have multiple ways in. I guess you mean the room. The
room, yeah, that's what most of us calls luggage, not the key card itself.
I mean, one of the tenets of level design is 3 ways in and out, right? So something we can explore. Sure.
Sweet. And again, these are from chat, so just 100% feel free to say no comment. Can you give us any info on the red key cards? Abandoned Mine and Northwest Crescent Falls.
Me?
Yes, Tesuji.
Oh, I put those there to build mystery. Although one of them has a purpose, we just had to take it out like last second because of performance reasons.
Okay.
But yeah, future content basically. We just don't have a purpose for them yet.
Awesome.
Sorry to spoil a bit of the mystery or the whatever you put on short.
Hey man, I've been trying to figure out what's behind those doors for a year now, and me and some of the first focus testers spent hours running around trying to figure out what we had to do to open those doors.
Yeah. One of them does have content, but it's like it doesn't function at the moment. So
what about any implementation of like doing the battery puzzles to perhaps open a door somewhere else in the map? Any consideration?
So on Tharis Island, we have toyed around with the idea of using the battery puzzle to do more than just open the doors.
Okay.
To give a little bit of the game away, you can do it like it's a big PvP area, and you can use the batteries to like lock doors or put up force fields and turn on
Oh, that would be
alarms.
sweet.
Just because you want to. Basically, we give you more batteries than you need to open up the door. So.
Yeah. So you could like put a battery to set up a trip alarm behind you in an area or something like that. That's awesome. Krill, is there any consideration for increasing the overall bullet velocity? It feels bad trying to shoot many of the guns. I'm thinking he's probably talking about like Manticore and some of those other pretty low velocity guns.
We increased for season 2 the bullet velocity of the Manticore and the Flechette. That's the two
Okay.
ones. We did.
Sweet. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think those are the two big ones for sure.
So that's pretty much the plan for now, and we'll see if we need to do more on that front. But I think overall we wanted to improve. We investigated basically the feedback from people saying that there's too low bullet velocity. It doesn't feel good to shoot some guns. But we didn't want to mess too much with our kind of combat weapon feel in general, because overall the feedback is that it's pretty good. So yeah, after testing it a bit, we felt like it's mostly on these two weapons that the issue occurs. And since the Manticore was very popular at one point, and it's very low tier weapon, very accessible, I feel like the fact that there's a lot of feedback around bullet velocity might come from a lot of people playing the Manticore specifically.
For
So
sure, the Manticore has a big piece to do it. But we've already answered this question, so I'm just going to read it out loud and repeat the answer. Are there plans to have ways to travel between the map? Yep. So they said that's a possibility. It's not something they're working on, but it's definitely something they're looking at for the future. And we are at our time limit here. I'm sure you boys want to get back to work. What is your opinion on removing the climb up spots? It's like map knowledge. Tesuji, can you give us just an overall mindset on why limiting all of the climbing spots?
Because those weren't intentional, and I didn't know about them until you discovered them.
Fair
Here's the
enough, fair
thing.
enough.
I will say this. I have already gone in and added in a couple. It's like, okay, I don't want you getting up on this mountain, but I can see why you would want something there. So I'll go in and add a little bit of a goat path for players to go follow. Right. So I would rather the jank be removed and like the possible further exploits to be removed. And then Lemmy's like, okay, let me see what you're trying to do and see if I can give you something back.
Will we ever see gas masks or anything like that for the helmets, Krill?
I mean, gas mask, that would prevent you from getting damage from gas grenade, I suppose.
Yeah.
Could be something. I mean, not for season 2 for sure. That's not planned. But if we have more use of gas in general, like areas with gas or specific chambers, the kind of stuff, then we might implement gas mask that will allow you to go in these areas and not receive any damage, and at the same time it will protect you from gas grenades as well, for sure. That's something we really want to do, so I think it might come at one point, but as said, as usual, you never know.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna let you guys out of here. I appreciate you. I already got you 2 minutes over time here. So, Tesuji, do you have any thoughts on automatic transportation on the maps, like the bringing back the monorail, or perhaps modes of transportation?
Monorail, probably. I actually have a prototype for a map that uses that as an idea. As for the bikes coming back, oh boy, we're not going to let you purchase a bike whenever the hell you want. That's for certain.
Yeah, like the old game. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we could do something like in Warzone where you might find a bike in a garage somewhere and it's got a little bit of fuel and you can use it for a little bit. I don't know. So might be fun to have it, but it might be fun to have a train where you can go from POI to POI. That might be fun.
Oh, and Krill, this is a huge question. Thank you so much, Monkey of Darkness, one of my favorite dudes, man. He wants to know. This should fall under combat for Krill, but will there be a quick shop or preset loadout so that we can set up a loadout of the equipment we want and press a button and instantly have everything in our inventory?
Sure, it would work, but definitely something I want to add in the future. Yeah, just making it easier for you to buy your stuff on the station. It's definitely not on combat though, but I can answer for this. That we're working on finding a solution for quick loadouts. But yeah, no
Sweet.
timeline yet.
What I know many of us would be excited for that. I personally get frustrated every time I drop to the planet and don't have a scope on my sniper. I call it when it happens in my chat, we just give up. We're dead. I deserve to die this round because I didn't put a scope on my sniper rifle. So I'm definitely excited for that. Tesuji and Kril, I really want to thank you guys for taking time out of your guys' busy work. I know you guys, Tesuji is always so busy. Me and Tesuji spent a lot of time talking and hanging out before in the past. So I'm super glad I got you here, Tesuji. And Kril, it was really nice to meet you, man, and to hear your point of view from the combat design area. I personally love the game so much. I'm so excited for season 2 all the way into the future. And you guys are doing awesome. And keep at it, man. I know it's got to be stressful for you guys here through season 1 and season 2. And many of us in the community are absolutely in love with the game. Just super excited for the future and what you guys have done. So thank you so much for joining me here. Chat, I'm going to hang out in the station and talk to some of you guys in chat. And then I'm going to be streaming some of my low tier gameplay for today. And I am going to hopefully do maybe 12-hour stream for the Cataclysm tomorrow. I know maybe a lot of you are hoping to hear a little bit about Cataclysm. All that information was released publicly today, and we will definitely be talking about it a little bit. But thanks again to Tesuji and Kril. If there's anything you guys want to say on your outro.
Yeah, just a big thank you. I mean, yeah, playing the game and watching you playing the game. All of you, it's been great so far. So keep doing it. We're really loving it. So thanks.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for everything, guys. Thank you for playing our game, and I'm really can't wait to see you all get onto Tharis Island and explore the depths.
So exciting, man. So exciting. And a huge shout out to Scraticus. Thanks a lot for facilitating this for me and continuing to let me be a part of both the focus test group, the partner test, the community, and everything in between. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love critiquing these guys and everything they do. I love being a part of analyzing statistics. And I am hoping to continue to do interviews with more developers throughout the future, all the way to the end. Like I plan on being here till the end, guys. So thank you so much to Tesuji and Kril. I'm going to kick you guys out of here. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, let me switch on over here. Let me kick these guys out of Discord. And yeah, it's just me and you, chat. So a little bit about myself is I stream every weekday at around 10 a.m. Central American time. We have a pretty fun channel. I have a pretty great group of community. We like to talk and debate things. We're a very positive channel when it comes to the game. We like to focus and talk about the future while I get myself foamed and killed inside of Fortuna 3. I also do season-long drops, so it's pretty much like Twitch drops, but when you watch my channel, you get viewer points. You can use those viewer points to get items out of my inventory. I'm a veteran of the old game, so I have a lot of old cosmetics that you guys don't get for right now. Eventually, you'll be able to get them. But when you win things from my channel drops, it comes with charms and cosmetics. For season 1, we had a 3% chance on exotics. I think we gave away about 10 exotic weapons, 5% chance on epics. And then in the beginning of the season, I'll be giving out white items just because we're all going to be in that area. But when we get farther along the season, I don't even give out white items. You can only get green or better. We also have a lot of cycle-related chat games inside of my channel where you can play dead drops and knife runs and things like that to earn points so that you can join in the battle royale. So let me see. I think I have a battle royale set up. Let's see. Let's do a real quick one. Here we go. So you can play the chat games to get points to play this battle royale game that we have going on here. You can see some of the skins are a little fancier than the other ones. And basically my channel is just a giant The Cycle Frontier fangirl channel. So we have lots of fun. We have lots of cycle related chat things going on. You can see here, we got some Bulldog users, we got some Phasic Lancer users, and we also have got boss battles and stuff like that where we fight Jeffs and Bertha coming soon for season 2. I also have season-long leaderboards where you can compete to get onto the leaderboard for kills and stash value and things like that. So Sorry, just catching up on some of the chat there. So if you guys are avid fans of the cycle and you're looking for some place for Twitch drops to come and spend your time, you can earn Twitch drops. You can earn custom drops from my channel. You can also come and hang out and play the chat games and stuff like that, and compete with each other and have fun. And this is just kind of the limited version. I don't have all of the chat games turned on right now because obviously I'm doing an interview. But we have really fun chat outcomes on the games. You can get killed by Spud Hunter. You can get killed by a blast tick. You can foam a guy AFK in Pinnacle Labs for a bunch of money and kills. Look, Bokstov, he won. Check it out. Our man Bokstov is the big winner. So you can use these points to get some of these custom skins. Here we go. We got the Apex Predator with Bulldogs. There's so many players here. I'm going to have a hard time pulling out all the skins. Can I get one? Give me one. Here we go. Oh, nope. But yeah, so you can kind of see the Phasic Lancer guy moving across the screen. So we'll also have season-long leaderboards, and they'll have lifetime-long leaderboards. But that pretty much is it for me and my channel and what's going on here. I appreciate all the follows. I know I got a bunch of follows and I didn't get to say thanks to all of them, but big thanks for everybody that hit me with the follows. I also do YouTube content, mostly based around the gun balance and lore videos. If you guys haven't checked out my lore videos, go and check out my lore videos on YouTube. I spend a lot of time and many people enjoy them. They're really sick. I've got 2 right now. I'm coming out with a couple more for season 2 launch that should be pretty exciting. Thanks for the subs. Everybody who gave me a sub and a follow, I greatly appreciate you guys showing support to the community and to me.